Network. Hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
Shot to right, slicing toward the pesky pole, down the line, and it's going to be out of here! Line down the right field line toward the pesky pole, leaping up, and that ball is gone! That's a home run! A lot of our Nesson team as well. High fly down the right field line, headed toward the pesky pole. That one tucked in, and that ball is going to be against the wall and into second base. Number retired, and now Rafael Devers trying to retire that baseball inside the pesky
pole. Welcome to another episode of the Pesky Podcast. I'm your host, the Ritt. With me, like always, is DC and the OG. Here with episode 80, brought to you by Boston Sports Entertainment Network. And with us, we have our special guest. You guys might know him if you listen to the old WooSox playing, Mr. Mike Antonellis.
There you go.
Oh, okay, there we go. So, first off, DC, how's it going, man?
Not feeling the greatest, but we're on the mend, so I can't complain. You can see my daughter in the back, so you might hear her during the show. So I apologize about that.
No.
Other than that, though, I'm doing pretty well.
She's a great executive producer.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
watching Shrek instead
George?
of doing her job.
George, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Just doing thing, and got to do the big family thing tomorrow down in Mass for Easter. So
Yes. And finally, Mike, how's it going, man?
Things are good. Thanks for having me on. You guys ever sit at the pesky pole at Fenway? That'd be cool if you all sat there.
I was over there one time. I was on a bus trip up there.
Okay.
The bus trip had horrible seats. So I went and upgraded seats for like $50 for the second row right by the pesky pole. And yeah, I great seats. Great view.
But the three of you have to be there. I mean, we need to see a highlight of a ball going right towards you three. That'd be awesome.
That'd be a core memory.
Yeah.
that would be cool.
A home run coming right over towards us.
Yeah, you could use it in your open. It'd be perfect.
That's
Got to plan it out.
something we
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah.
So, but guys, okay, before we go and interview Mike's going to be join us as part of the podcast a little bit here. And man, two great games we had so far with the Mariners. We've had a nice little kind of walk-off win by one half of the Super Smash Brothers, Tyler O'Neill. And then we had a knockout, drag-out fight last night, with the two pitchers on the mound. And, let's start with you, DC. What were some key highlights and key moments so far in the first two games of the series, and what do you pull from them?
First game, obviously the bats were alive. I think the only person that didn't get a hit that played in the game was Reyes, but obviously he came in later on in the game. It was good to see Rafi go oppo, which is awesome. If he's going to be doing that this year, he'll be adding to those home run totals. O'Neill extending his opening day streak to 5. Got me a nice little bet on DraftKings with that. I threw a $5 bet on a money line plus a home run, so I was pretty stoked when that happened. Last night, pitcher's duel. I know there's the conversation with the umps, but you got to get more than 4 hits and not leave that game in the umps' hands, unfortunately. Obviously, that sucks for that to happen, but 4 hits is going to get it done, especially in the beginning of the game. Kirby he walked 2 people. He walked 19 total last year, and to put in 2 in the first inning, you got to take advantage of that. Early in the season, though, I think the bats will get going.
Yeah, he was in trouble. Like you'd never seen him at all last year in the first inning. We had runners on, I think, first and third, with 2 outs, and he looked a little shaken. But after that inning, he kind of settled in. A little bit later in the game, my biggest takeaway is, what are the umps going to, just go off Ocasas? Like, he knows balls and strikes better than the umpires do, apparently, because, I swear, and I tweeted it out last night, that the umpire, that he had to take a shit or something, because he was just trying to get through that, strike, what, 6 straight balls, and he called 3 of them strikes like that. That's completely outrageous there. And I can't wait to MLB, once that game was over, gave him his report card, and straight F's across the board. So George, what did you sit there and think of the first 2 games of the series?
Well, I think at the very least, you got to recognize that you have 2 very good pitchers at the top of your rotation. Bayo did not have his best stuff. I mean, he figured it out as he went along and did a very good job. And you know what? If he's going to be the ace, that's what you want. When you don't have your best stuff, you figure it out and get the job done. Pivetta was, the man is a master competitor on the mound, and he was just fearless last night. Didn't care, went up there and said, I'm going to show you. He made one mistake to J.P. Crawford, who just hooked it around the pole, and that was it. He was absolutely phenomenal. I agree with you guys in the umpire call. I mean, fans are going to want the robo umps, and after last night, who can blame them? But I mean, 2 very good pitching performances, and for all the ringing and the gnashing of teeth and things like that over pitching, you got 2 stellar performances back to back. So not bad, boys. Not bad at all.
And Mike, what did you see so far? You have a different perspective because you watched the game overall, and see things differently than what a normal fan would. So let's go for your takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I always point to is defense first, defensive pitching, but you don't realize how good a shortstop is until you don't have him. And Trevor Story makes every play. There was a play in that opening game that I didn't think someone would make if it wasn't him. You just don't realize it. They're better in the outfield defensively. But for me, it always comes down to the same thing. It's starting pitching. The Yankees won 82 games last year. They hit 227, which was 28th in baseball, and they still won 82 games. I still think at times fans obsess about the lineup. You do not have to score 5 to 6 runs a game, but you cannot be built the way that they've been built the last few years. No pitching, bad defense. You get down 3-4-0 in the big leagues, forget it. And I thought that was probably Pivetta's best game he's ever thrown. I mean, he was really good. And I agree with you, George. Bayo didn't have his great stuff. That's what the good ones do. Same with Kirby last night. Early, you got to get to those guys early. But for me, I saw a lot of the little things they did. The 2-strike hitting Connor Wong had in that first game, and the way that they play defense, they're going to have to pitch like this, and they're going to have career years from some guys. But I think that's for any team. The Rangers and Diamondbacks certainly got that last year. But I think they're improved in ways that they were really built, I think, bad last year. And the defense was unacceptable. And to me, it's done a 180.
Yeah, I love how confident they were. When Pivetta was done, Wink came in. He struck out 3 of the first 4 batters he faced. And he was locked in. And, George kind of, nominated them as the 3-headed monster in the back of the bullpen, and Wink was just locked in, and he's like, if Pivetta's not giving up anything, besides that one little mishap, I can't give up anything else. And there was times when we were in striking distance there, and we had guys in first, we had guys on third, but there was just but you don't, like George said, don't put those situation in the umpire's hands. Yeah. You got to strike when you can, because if not, it looks just like last night, a 1-0 ball game. And, we come tonight, we got Cutter Crawford on the mound. That's my boy. And, I'm hoping Cutter comes right in and steps in and he, continues what he left off at spring training. So, Mike, what are you thinking for the rest of the series, with the 2 games with Whitlock and Cutter Crawford? What are we looking at?
It's interesting. I think the Red Sox have a very intriguing 3-4-5 than most teams do, because there is definitely upside, and they all want to start. Crawford he struggled as a reliever. He did not want to do that, which was pretty evident. And he's in a role that his stuff is built as a starter. I think Whitlock has shown that I like him in the bullpen, but when he's got his A stuff, he's going to be fourth, fifth in the rotation. You'll take that. And then Houck, who knows? We've seen him 4 innings. He could throw 12 up, 12 down, just like that. So it's kind of a wait and see to me, but I think the stuff is there. I mean, for 3, 4, 5 guys in that rotation, it's not bad to have. Obviously, they don't have a lot of depth if any of those get hurt. But what's always good, too, when you're the 3 and 4th guys, you've had 2 days to sit and watch. So you can look at all the scouting reports you want in video, but to see it live is different. And I thought Pivetta did some good things to those hitters last night. It kept them really off balance. That some of these starters coming up, they have that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like he brought the sweeper. Like
yeah.
he has 5 pitches now, coming from last year when he was working on it, but now he's actually using that 8 to 10% of the time now, and it kind of throws off the hitters because not only can he go with the elevated fastball up high, but now he can go east to west, with the sweeper and the slider too. So DC, going on social media, and sometimes Red Sox Nation, you can't go on social media because your haters are going to hate. But, what did you see when you went on there and seen people, Story's the worst contract because he couldn't come through and runners in scoring position. And, Casas is the same way. Well, like, it's the second game of the series. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't get too caught up in social media, man. I think, like you just said, it's 2 games into the season. Give them a chance to get warmed up. I try not to pay too much attention. Obviously, you see it, you just scroll on by. I mean, it's definitely an overreaction. Story, obviously, his career in Boston hasn't been the greatest, obviously due to injuries. Was a big contract, but there's a whole season left, and I think he's going to prove them wrong, hopefully.
Okay, George, last but not least. So yesterday late, we had a lineup change. Devers was pulled, Dahlback was put in a little bit. Do you think that the late lineup change, kind of messed with their heads a little bit to where, Dahlback gets thrown right in, they don't have their quote unquote leader batting second, so they had to switch around the lineup there a little bit too. Do you think that played a little bit?
Well, anytime you take Raffy out of the lineup, it creates an issue. But I think they had their opportunity in the first inning. They had him on the ropes. They could not get a run across. Okay. And when you've got a pitcher like George Kirby and you're starting to get to him, if you don't, go in for the kill shot, he's going to come back and haunt you. And he did. Okay. And he and Pivetta, settled down to an excellent pitching match after that. Raffy's out of the lineup. It's going to be different. I mean, it hurts. I mean, it's nice to have him, come up 4 to 5 times a game because you never know what's going to happen. But I don't think at the outset it messed with him. This team has, and we're going to show you attitude, okay? Because the expectations are low because the fans' expectations were high at the front office. So the fans are not expecting much. The team's saying, screw this, we're going to show you guys. Okay. I mean, it hurts, but it's not the cause.
I did love the defense that Dahlback gave when
yes,
that line caught it, won it over to Casas and almost got Rodriguez out.
Almost doubled him up. Yeah, that was a slick play.
I was really, really impressed with his, defense, but his defense was never really the problem. It was his, getting consistent at bats, and seeing the ball a lot better in the majors. So before we switch over and play the grill game, interviewing you, Mike, DC, we're gonna sit there and pull up our first contest winner. I said if Bayo got the win. Well, we're going to give away our newfound Bayo shirt, new design out there. So DC, if you want to sit there and pull that up, all the participants are in there.
See if I don't mess this up.
We're picked the winner.
There we go. All right, let me know when you're ready.
Bam, right there.
All right, somebody pick a number through 1 through 10.
Mike?
I'll go 8.
All right, so I'm going to randomize it 8 times. 8 times, the one at the top will be the winner then. So 1.
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Trivia Bruce at Trivia Bruce is the winner.
Okay. DC, he will be tweeting that out there then. At Trivia Bruce, you have the 24 hours to sit there and DM us, and we'll get you that shirt sent out right away. So, but
George,
now,
you were on that list, but I figured it was a conflict of interest, so I had to take you off.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him right after this.
He was on it too, huh?
I was kind of hoping. I was like, Sox Addicts wins. People might start to sit there and think a little something there. Mike picked the number, and
yeah,
Yep. So, but Mike, let's sit there and talk about your career now. Let's sit there and get the interview. What made you what started you? Because you didn't start in the broadcast booth. You worked your way up. I seen a picture out there on Twitter of you interviewing a young Breslow. So tell everybody what got you started and what wanted you to do what you're doing today.
Well, growing up in Massachusetts was easily, you fall in love with baseball. Most kids do very early, and I did probably 6, 7 years old. Grew up in Ashland, which is close to, not far from Boston, 35, 40 minutes. So just that passion and loving baseball, couldn't get enough of it. And finally, when I was in my 20s, I did Legion Baseball in Milford, Mass. And that led to an internship at a team in Prince William, which was in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where I did my first internship. I got a full-time job right out of it with that same team. And then I just moved around a bunch of times. And then 2005, I got to come back home somewhat. I landed the job with Portland Sea Dogs, and I was there for 15 years before Pawtucket called a month before the pandemic. So I actually was in Pawtucket during the 2020 season. We didn't have a season, and we actually served food on the field during the pandemic at McCoy, and then went with them to Worcester. But yeah, I'm very lucky because there's not many New England professional teams, out Boston, Worcester, Portland. Lowell's not around anymore. And I have one of those jobs. I mean, so for a New England kid, that there's tons of New England kids that want to do play-by-play. And I'm lucky now to be close to home. My parents are close. My sister's close, and I'm close to where Polar Park is now. So things have really worked out.
So I was on your YouTube channel. I've been looking at it the past couple of days. Obviously, you've done some great interviews with Pedro, Veritek. I watched a couple with Joe Oliver. Is there any at this point in your career, do you still get the jitters, or is that something that never really came up? Is there any way to really prepare for that? Being a guy from New England, and pretty cool job to have as a sports fan. Do you ever get any pre-interview jitters?
Yeah, sometimes. Pedro definitely. But now it's more exciting. I mean, I've been so lucky. I mean, we've had, between when you do games too now in Worcester, I do TV. We do all of our games on NESN Plus, and I mean, I remember last year, Dwight Evans is coming in. I mean, we've had Oil Can, we've had Patriots player, we've had so many. So and even going back to Portland, I remember Bill Buckner being there. Bill Buckner probably really made me kind of people even notice. They're like, whoa, because I was 13 in 1986 and I have him sitting next to me. Who would have thought? Yeah, no, I still get a little. I think you have to, if you don't get a little jitters when you do things, and then maybe there's something wrong. But now it's more exciting. I mean, I think I have a good template in my mind how I interview people, a good format for how I do it, and it's great. That's one of my favorite things to do is interview people, no matter who they are. And I had Mr. Belding on the air with me before in Portland, and he thought I was cool, and this guy's an actor, and but yeah, I actually interviewed Pedro twice. In Portland, we used to do this dinner every year, and we brought in some real high profile Red Sox guys, from Veritek to Trot Nixon, Johnny Damon, and the more and more you do of those, you get comfortable. But the guys are great. The person you interview is the key for any interviewer. I mean, if they're not good, it's hard to be good yourself.
Yeah. So when you were growing up in Ashland and listening and watching Red Sox baseball games, who should did you try to model yourself after any of the broadcasters? And we've had some really good ones through the years.
Yeah.
Or who was your idol in terms of person behind the mic?
Yeah. No, I think all of them, really. I mean, what I loved about those guys, and not just in Boston, but really, I think throughout sports, I mean, they were larger than life characters. And I don't know if it's like that anymore. Don Orsillo certainly is. But they seem like almost like comic book characters. It even seemed like a lot of sports figures were like that. The old NBA, to me, when I grew up, those guys all felt that, because they all went by one name. You said Michael, Magic, Larry, but Ned Martin, Ken Coleman, even Joe. I mean, Joe Castiglione. I mean, he's been doing it since. Mike Gorman's the only Celtics broadcaster, but I love those guys. I mean, Vin Scully. I just love their personality. But then when Jerry Trupiano came, I just loved Jerry's way he had on the air, his personality. But he was so smooth at how he called the game. But then he had so much fun, and I loved how he pick on Joe and he pick on himself. And I've got to talk to Jerry a lot too, and he was probably a real mentor to me, and I look to him a lot. But I love those old school guys. Bob Uecker too, who does Brewer games. I mean, he's 90 and still going strong. But yeah, I would say like the guys that really would stand out would be Ned Martin, who was on TV, Joe, who I've worked with Joe, which is crazy to even think, Jerry Trupiano, and then just so many of those larger than life guys. And even Bob Costas, he's doing MLB Network games, and it takes me right back to 1987 on Saturdays when he did the game of the week. So those old school guys really did a good job paving the way and making guys like me want to do it. I think that's kind of what we, any broadcaster, what you guys do makes other people want to do it if you're interesting.
Yeah. So you do a lot of live TV now. So how hard or how nerve-wracking is it now doing live TV to thinking back of your first time ever being, live broadcasting?
Yeah, no, it's a different animal. And usually I just do home games. So we play 6 in a row against one team, and I'm usually there 4 to 5. I'll do radio 2 times, TV twice. It's completely different. Some guys don't like TV, some don't like radio. I love both. I think I'm starting to like TV a little bit more because you can actually be a lot more creative than you think, because you can use pictures to paint the picture. And you can, we have a talk back where you could say, hey, there, a few years ago, there was a hawk on right above us. And you could say, hey, there's a hawk on the light tower. And then they get a shot of it. So you can you can be very creative. It's way more laid back. We mess around a lot on TV. We have fun with it. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of nerve-wracking too, because you get in a suit, you got to do this real formal stand-up at the beginning, and there's a lot of moving parts Radio is just me, the other guy, and our producer back at the station. TV, it's a whole. I mean, our production room at Polar Park is tons of people. I mean, it's our Nesson broadcast is it's no different than a Red Sox game, and we have so many people, and so it's a lot, but I really enjoy it, and there's something about being in front of the camera when that light goes on. It just live makes you alive. It really does. But I still get pretty nervous, and I'll be doing a lot of TV on the first homestand as well.
If you could give one piece of advice to, say, a kid fresh out of high school going to college, or even somebody that's getting right out of college, one piece of advice, for the line of work that you do.
Yeah, I would say reps. I compare it to working out. I mean, it's like a muscle that needs to be developed. I'm a big fan of that 10,000 hour rule. There's a book about that, doing something 10,000 hours. I would also say to be versatile. I know what's great now is you can do a podcast right on this. I mean, when I started out, we didn't have Twitch, YouTube, we didn't have all these things. And that's a great vehicle to do whatever. If you want to be a show host, do it anywhere. If you want to do play-by-play, don't turn down things. I've had people ask me, I got this job offer, but the games aren't on the radio. They're just on the internet. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter. You got to just do it. So, I don't tell people to be cutthroat, be aggressive, of course, but you don't want to be too overbearing. And if you try and you can't find a way to work for a team or a college, or call up the WooSox and say, hey, can I make a mock broadcast? Can I sit in a vacant booth? And a lot of teams, big league teams, will let people do that. So just find a way to do it, no matter what level it is. I mean, you can watch a game. When I was coming through, there wasn't a lot of avenues to do things. Guys would just watch a game and record it into their recorder and make demo tapes off that. And hiring people don't care that it's a game that you're watching on TV, because it's still a skill. So, just keep doing it. Play-by-play is repetition too. I'm at the point now where it's like, I can almost be thinking of something else. I probably shouldn't say that, but I mean, I've done it so long, but I can almost put it sometimes in the back and think of something else while it's going on, which, it's just from doing it done, I think, 3,300 games. So. Yep.
Doing live anything it's always interesting, because you never know what gets hit. What's one of the weirdest things that's happened while you've been doing a broadcast, either radio or TV?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I would, I'd go back to, I remember being in Wisconsin, Appleton, Wisconsin, where they had not an earthquake. Well, they had a weather warning that we wouldn't have it, maybe tornado. And I remember that happening during the game. Like, you could feel something was going on. And I was, being from New England, we didn't have a lot of that. So just navigating like insane winds, things just going nuts. And you kind of have to keep it together. Sometimes when you have a guest in the booth, that can get a little out of hand, or it can go sideways. But when you're in the director's seat, as I say, and you're the lead guy, you got to know how to steer the ship. That's a skill. I mean, you got to somehow know how to turn it back. And, but I've never had like too many crazy things. Fortunately, on-air difficulties have happened where you have feedback, things in my ear that no one can hear. We had, I think, a couple of years ago where we lost the picture in the middle of a ball batted, and on TV you get used to looking at the monitor, but you just have to keep going, because you don't know if that's your monitor, or because your monitor can crap out and it can still be live. So a lot of it is just to keep going forward no matter what's going. And somehow, I would think the hardest things I've had, though, is when I first came up working in A-ball, you'd be in a booth with everyone and it's wide open. You didn't have your own booth. So like, you're calling a game first or second year in, and everybody can hear you. And that took me a while to overcome, because they're all listening to you, and you might think you sound like a moron, but you have to somehow get over that. That's a good thing with doing play-by-play is that it does toughen you up too. Like you have to really somehow adjust to things and get over things, which it can take a while.
Just keep moving. Don't stop. Just keep going. Right.
Yeah, you have to. You really do. Yeah. It's easy to let things steamroll too. Like if you get off kilter yeah.
So, Mike, you said you do radio and you do live TV on NESN Plus. So, how long did it take you for live TV to learn to work off the monitor instead of looking at the game itself? Because that's two totally different things. Because you're working off the monitor because being a play-by-play guy, you're trying to give the fans what they're seeing on TV instead of looking straight ahead onto the field.
Yeah, that's a real good question. I think I probably do 50-50 because you can also, like, if you use the monitor exclusively and then the camera thinks it's a home run and it's not, but you're going by the monitor. It's a tough balance. I think I probably still rely on myself because I do more radio overall. It's usually like last year it was more like 4 games radio, 2 TV. So I'm so used to watching and I know the ballpark really well. And I've called enough games where I'm pretty confident. I'll sometimes look down maybe if I'm not sure. And if a ball's hit in an alleyway that I can't see down left and right field, we have a pretty good view. But what I've had to learn too, though, is that we have an incredible staff of production and people and directors that they'll put stuff on. I have to make sure I'm looking because then I leave them high and dry. And so I have to be better too at making sure that I'm always looking, I'll do this like all the time because they're real quick at throwing something up and you don't want to miss that. If they have something that's, in the ballpark that's really good and they're unbelievable at working off something we've talked about. For example, I'll always mention how at any Red Sox affiliated park, I'm always amazed at how many jerseys of most obscure Red Sox players. I mean, Portland had it. It's unbelievable. And they'll get a shot of something like that. The camera people, they're listening to us. So then if I don't react to that, then it looks bad on the production. So I'm getting better at that. Because the pictures is what matter. It's not really the TV broadcast is more about the pictures than about us. So yeah, but it's really, I've also, it's a big thing. Like we meet before we have production meetings. We go over all the graphics. It's a huge production, even at AAA. Like you wouldn't realize what we do and the notes we have. Even the live reads, making sure when we come out of a break, I can't start my sponsorship read until the graphic is up. It's just TV rules. So, I've learned a lot, but I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. We have fun. I'm lucky too. The guys I work with, we're all friends, which is very rare. I mean, the fact that you get to work with all your buddies. So, that's a good, but it's a great question.
So earlier in your career, I guess it could be any point in your career, was there any time where you had to almost like pinch yourself, like, I'm not a fan right now, I'm broadcasting this game, whether it was an exciting game that was going on, a big comeback, was that like a hard transition?
Yeah. I think you learn by doing. I think sometimes in the big moments you try to do more and you don't need to. And when I was in Portland, we used to play, all the minor league teams, we played a game at Fenway. It was called Futures at Fenway. And I remember the first time being there and I was way too overwhelmed with trying to just like maybe describe the park. Like, it's like people have been there. They've seen it, like trying to do too much. So I've learned that you don't have to do that. Because it's not about me, it's about the listener. So, bringing the action is the most important thing. But I've done some spring training games with Joe and Tim Neverett. That was fantastic. Those were unbelievable moments. I got to do a game with Joe and Rob Bradford regular season a couple years ago from Fenway, in Fenway, which that was probably one of those pinch me moments. That was, yeah. So yeah, and I did studio for the Red Sox against Yankees on a Sunday night game. There was a long rain delay, and I was in the studio, so I had to do a 2-hour show. And I knew it was going to rain, so I was ready for it. But yeah, I mean, but I still think the pinch me moments don't have to be any like big league moments or AAA. In Portland, we made it to the championship my first 2 years, and we won it the second year. It was surreal. Like we had been on the losing end the year before, and I remember when we lost, when that last out, how distraught I felt. Like I didn't think I would have any emotion, but it really hurt. And then the year after we won it, and it was really weird. It's a really weird feeling, like to see a team win it all. It's pretty cool too. But yeah, those moments, and I have the ring that we got there, and yeah, so a lot of them. But the Fenway one, the first time at Fenway, I mean that was really a pinch me moment.
So, of all you did games in Portland. Now you're doing them in Worcester. Any particular special moment? You witness something and you're going, "Hey, wow! I'm glad I got to see this."
Yeah, it's probably Mookie. That's what I tell people. Always ask me, who's the best player I've ever seen, and I mean, I think it would be a lot of people's favorite player. 2014, he led off the season in Reading, Pennsylvania with a home run on a 3-2 pitch. And they won that. The Sea Dogs won that game. It was a rain-shortened no-hitter thrown by Henry Owens. So that's how the first game of the season in 14 started. And it was very good foreshadowing what was to come for Mookie. But watching him we didn't have him that long, was, oh my God, this could be a Hall of Famer. And I tell people this, I've never seen players in awe of another player like they were. Everybody on that team, coaches, other players, other broadcasters, scouts, I have never seen people be in such awe of a minor league player. And Xander was close. And I started in 05 there, and we had Pedroia, Papelbon, Lester. We were loaded, but the minor league game was not as cool yet. And then it started to, but Mookie was kind of the guy, like you could do a documentary on that and interview a lot of people who saw him not only in 14, but Mookie, I think the year before, or he almost quit. He couldn't even, I don't think he ever hit a ball to the track in A-ball. Some story was crazy about him, how he really overcame a lot. But that whole time there and seeing him is easily some of my best moments. And then, kind of on a weird thing, Dustin Pedroia played his last professional game with the Sea Dogs. And I knew him from my first year. It was kind of weird seeing him come back and being hobbled and not be able to play anymore. But I was happy to at least see him one more time and be there for his last game. But yeah, the Mookie stuff really lives on for me.
Yeah, Mike, I seen Dustin Pedroia. I think it was him and Brock Holt both. They were on a rehab assignment. They were down in Scranton playing the Rail Riders, and I was at the game. And I was so impressed how not only Pedroia but Holt, like they played the game just as hard as they would that they're up in the major leagues. And I was just in awe when I got to see Pedroia, because the respect that everybody gave him there, around that team was just phenomenal.
Yeah, those two rehabbed with us too at the same time. And this is funny. When I was in Portland, it was a small operation. It still is, and we all kind of had a hand in everything. So we all of our bobbleheads we came up with the ideas, and this guy in the office, who was not a baseball guy, which is actually good to have a non-baseball person work in a baseball office because they have a different perspective. he said, let's do a Brock Holt bobblehead of him on a cycle because he hit for the cycle. And we did it, and we had them when he was there, and we asked him to voice a promo and for us for the video board. He came out before he did it. We showed him a bobblehead. He loved it. But those, all the big league guys that I've seen come down to the minors, they're really good with the young guys. They really come in. Obviously, their presence is enormous when they walk in, but they don't take any crap when they go in there either. Like, they're not there to have fun. They're there to work hard. And I always have told people that major league rehab assignments in the minors are good for everybody. The fans, the players, everybody, the broadcasters, the clubhouse guys, because they get a little extra money from the food. But it's such a it's so great when they come back. And for me, it's I was in Portland so long that there were guys that I saw come through there. Then they came back as big leaguers, and I knew them better than the players, it was always weird because I ended up talking to, it was just weird, but those two are fantastic. Brock Holt, I tell his story. He played in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He was not a guy with the Pirates. And I remember our manager, Kevin Bowles, told me to ask their radio guy to find out what kind of guy he was, because he's like, we love this guy. We don't know why the Pirates didn't like him, because he was raking in AA. So you guys probably don't know this, that the minor league coaches have to do reports on other players, either given to them by the GM or whoever, but they do reports. And they wrote up Brock Holt highly. And I always say that when they got him in that deal, Kevin Bowles had a lot to do with that, our manager, because he really he loved him, and he was not really a prospect with the Pirates. So, and that really, you give those minor league coaches some credit. They had a good eye, and that he was a throw-in in that trade, and that worked out pretty good.
So, like I said, I was on your YouTube. I watched a couple of your interviews. Two that stand out to me were the Veritek one, and then Keith Folk. I think it was like a Portland hot stove event in the winter. I'm not sure exactly what. Does that extra element of having a crowd right in front of you affect you in any way? Do you have to add any more preparation? Because obviously, if they laugh or something, kind of throws off maybe timing. Is that something that can affect the interview, or no?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, it's a different beast. I mean, I used to, when I first had to do that. So when I first got there, the players got up and spoke, and it didn't work. They don't want to do that, and I don't blame them. Our general manager, Charlie Eschbach, had watched a Red Sox hot stove. I think the first town hall they did, and they did it in that format. And he said, why don't we do that? Why don't we, Mike, he's the broadcaster. And so what I would do before the first year, I get up and I talk and I introduce the player, and it didn't work. It's tough because they can't control the room, because they really don't want to just sit there and talk about themselves. So we did that format, and there's a lot of preparation. I spend weeks on that. The questions, I have at least 35 questions for each person, and it's all kind of strategically written out. There are trap questions, escape questions. If something, you know what I mean? Like there's ways when you do an interview, and I never script questions on other interviews, but something like this. First of all, it's 500 people there. They pay a lot of money. It's for charity. You have some big time guests, and I have to interview, I think, 5 to 6 people for a half hour. I mean, it's a lot, and you have to prepare for the, it was cool. You have to prepare for that. I have to prepare that they're all going to be short questions. They're all going to get nervous. They're all going to, you can feel it. So I format it in a way that it's a lot of softball questions. I'm not going to, I don't do that anyways, but it's a different kind of format, but you have to have questions, and you have to be quick. but with the big league guys, it's pretty easy. Now, when Pedro was there, he took the interview over. I think I asked 3 questions. Johnny Damon had about 4 or 5 whiskey and Cokes or something before he got up there. And I remember Matt Spring, he was a player. He was the last guy before Damon. He came over to me and he said, "Good luck with Damon. He's about 3 sheets to the wind," but he was fine. You just have to, but the thing that you can probably find this, the thing that tripped me up one year is I asked Michael Chavis about his first big league home run, and he got emotional, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh no, I can't believe," like I made him tear up, and I had to get out. How do you get out of that? So I said, like, "We're proud of you," something quick, but that format's tough because the guests, they're no matter who they are, they're nervous because there's 500 people. But Portland, the fans were unbelievable. I mean, they're the best fans. They really are. And, I mean, after a while, I didn't even feel like there were 500 people in the room. That's the key. It's just me and that guy. But to have that connection it's not easy at times. But and every year I did something different. One year I got a quote from someone connected to that person. With Damon, it was Allard Beard who drafted him. I called Allard and asked him, "What made you draft Damon when he was, in high school? He was with the Royal. What, and I did something different." But it's a lot of work. That's a completely different beast, and those things are good to do if you're a broadcaster because, like, I would be sweating. That dinner made me pretty nervous because I didn't want to let anybody down.
Oh, you talked about being the Sea Dogs. I mean, I moved to Maine about 5 years ago. I try to go to as many games as I can. I grew up in Eastern Mass as well. I used to go to the WooSox games and what have you. I mean, I think being New England fans are different in that they follow baseball closer. They know what's going on in the minor leagues. The thing I wanted to ask you is, given the prevalence of social media today and players having more opportunities to talk about themselves, are interviews more difficult or harder than they used to be?
I think that they're probably easier. I think the player now coming up gets much more exposure than they did. When you were a player in the minor leagues even in the 90s, you played in towns and no one went to games. No one knew who you were. People didn't know who Jeff Bagwell was until he got traded. Now I love it that they know who Kyle Teal is in A-ball. They know who the Greenville Drive are. So I think all of that's helped. I noticed in Portland, the increasing amount of Red Sox media that would cover us. Alex Spear frequently coming to Hadlock Field. He comes to Polar Park now. Rob Bradford, doing things for WEEI and the Red Sox doing more things. Nesson doing more things. So I think the player now, especially we call them the chosen ones, the prospects, that the exposure they're getting, they got to do a lot of media. The Red Sox do good training with that too. They talk to them about that, but they're exposed now. Of course, it's never the same when you get, when you get to Fenway, of course it's different, but I do think, to your point, there is an element of anything that's said will go on Twitter. I mean, beat writers listen to other shows and take quotes from that. But, I think the guys are careful. They were instructed to go through their Twitter feeds a few years ago and they deleted things. But I think that for me, it's been easier in a sense that these guys are now playing in markets that are bigger. And I think it's better for the game. I mean, minor league baseball is going in a direction that I think it's going to be in bigger cities as it's growing. It's to me, it's in a phase of changing for the better. Hartford's got an unbelievable ballpark. What they did in Worcester, those things all point to baseball being extremely healthy. You can't build facilities like that and have all those facilities without fans loving it. And I think they've showed how much that they love the game.
Okay, Mike, I sit there and heard that there's going to be a Hall of Fame for, you guys down there. Do you know any rumors of who's going to be possibly, the first selector, to go in there at all? Or are you even allowed to sit there and try to give us a little inside scoop?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple that I would love to see in. First ballot's got to go, in my opinion, for what he did on and off the field. It's got to be Fitzy.
Yeah, I know that they did announce something, and I think it's going to be like Rich Gedman, it's going to be eventually the Worcester / Pawtucket Hall of Fame. So some of the city leaders are going to go in. Rich Gedman, who's from Worcester, who gets to coach in his backyard. And then Larry Lucchino, I believe, will be, but no players yet. They did a lot for Fitzy. He had his own line of merchandise, Ryan Fitzgerald. They did a send-off for him during the offseason here. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, working Larry and Dr. Charles, I mean, they're big league owners, and working for big league owners, you can you see it, the things that they do. I mean, they have every dot, they dot every I and cross every T. Everything they do there, like opening day at Polar Park, will be ridiculous. Like the things that they've done for that. I mean, they brought Bob Cousy out last year. They've had James Taylor do the anthem. But yeah, that will get bigger. I'm sure. What I really like what they do is they listen to the fans. They actually do a town hall at the end of the year, and they will implement things that fans want. I mean, fans complain about not being able to see the scoreboard from third base, and they put one in right field, which I couldn't believe. They went out and bought a new scoreboard. But I imagine Fitzy will be in that first ballot, Ritt, to your point.
Yeah, Fitzy was always great. He was the first person that I got to talk to personally at Scranton, and he was just so open and willing to give time to sit there and talk, and just be a great guy. Yeah, no, he's great. Every team has one of those players that are really good with the media, and we've been lucky too. I mean, and I think we're kind of our organization and the Yankees too, it trickles down where those guys in spring training, they see the amount of coverage that those organizations get. So they're kind of used to it too. And for a lot of guys that go to Worcester, they're not that disappointed at times because they feel like it's kind of a big league ballpark, and it's you're in a pretty good market. So that helps.
This will be a little bit of a low level question, I guess you could say, but I always think about it when I'm watching. Sorry, you can hear my daughter in the background. When I'm watching a broadcast, and I always wonder, like, if these guys weren't sitting in the broadcast booth, where would you want to sit going to a game? You could go to any stadium, doesn't matter what it is, but where would you want to sit for your perfect seat to watch a game?
Yeah, no, I mean, growing up, it was always behind the first base dugout, but I probably, just because I've watched so many games, sitting probably in that last row behind home plate, because I really like pitching, and it's fun to see pitching from my view because I can see all the breaks and pitches, sweepers and all that. So yeah, behind, I'd love to sit. Our owner, Dr. Charles and Larry, they have seats, and I've not asked them yet for their seats. I think there's two right near the third base dugout, which I would love. I think right on the on deck circle, and Larry's are, I think, right behind the home plate. So I'll get the gusto to ask them this year. But yeah, I mean, why not? I've never sat in that first row behind home plate. I mean, yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah.
So if you weren't doing baseball play-by-play, and you didn't catch the fever, or you didn't get the breaks that you got, and you worked hard to get there, what do you think you'd be doing?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've thought about that before. Probably something maybe in marketing. I like coming up with crazy ideas, and I always helped out with that. when I was any team I worked for. I actually suggested to Worcester, the backup tight end for the Chiefs is from right outside Worcester, Noah Gray.
Mhm.
So I said we should do a Kansas City Chiefs tight end night to Taylor Swift music, but not say that, saying we're going to have a Chiefs tight end of the game. So they're going to try to get in touch with him because I think it would be cool to have him there to a Taylor Swift theme. But yeah, marketing. My dad taught. I would love to do that. I would love to be able to teach broadcasting, and I love working with younger people. Starting their careers. That's so much fun for me to do. It wasn't easy when I was coming up. A lot of the old timers did not want to give you time, which I get. It can be an insecure business because it's just there's only so many positions, and things break different ways for everybody. But I really like to mentor because it's lonely. I had no idea, when I was first coming up, if anything I was doing was right. You don't know. You don't go to school really to teach you like what the right way to broadcast sports is, or some people wonder, what if I went this way instead of going that way? I mean, who knows, but what I like now is that I speak to a lot of classes, and the kids now, I mean, they're doing all kinds of things. And I say, just keep doing that. Like, it's okay not to focus on one, but, who knows? I mean, I've done some acting too. I've done some background acting. I love that. I mean, I absolutely love doing that. And that to me that's probably been one of my biggest pinch me moments, was working on a movie, The Boston Strangler. I was in that, I make a cameo, no lines, you could see me in the movie, but doing that was, I've done a few things, and that I absolutely love just being on set all day is it's awesome. So maybe I would have pursued that more. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Mike, you've been around and seen what I would say the first batch with Mookie, Xander, and all of them coming up. What expectations do you think the fans and the WooSox have for the next batch that we, have coming up? Can you kind of like compare what the aura was around the first batch? And actually, technically, I was the second batch. The first batch was, Papelbon and, and back then. But compare them to these group of young kids coming up. And real quick, Mike, we've been talking on the Pesky Podcast. When Roman Anthony comes up, first day, it's got to be like Roman gladiator themed. The Roman Empire has come, deck out, toga party, the whole 9 yards when Roman Anthony. You shuffle it up to your bosses.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll be right on it. And anything they can do to to make it fun at the ballpark, they're very good at that. I mean, any game related thing that happens, they're right on that. But I know Portland is super excited. They're going to have a loaded team to start. And it's interesting that the perception of prospects is their suspects. I don't know why this is, and I mean, I do get it. Like, that we know that they don't all make it, but big league players don't grow on trees. They come from the minors. Mm-hmm. And I think fans sometimes are afraid to commit to somebody, which is fine. I mean, I get it, but go watch for yourself. Go watch 3 or 4 games, listen to what scouts say. But like when we saw Brian Bayo in Worcester, we knew. I mean, some scouts told me that Kyle Teals is close to Adley Rutschman as you're going to get. That's a position that's impossible to find. And you have a chance to have maybe, a catcher that could be there 10 to 15 years. Veritek they traded for, Vasquez was their own, but think about it. It's not easy, that position. I'm really excited. I mean, Roman Anthony, the skills at that age, I think it's the age for me, and how quick. I mean, Teal made it to Double-A last year, the year he's drafted. So I noticed this probably. I remember asking Ben Crockett, our farm director, I thought the game was getting younger maybe 8 to 10 years ago. I could see this happening, and I think it's for the better. And I think as we go forward, I think that's why they chopped some of the levels off at the minors. I really think that you're going to see guys go from college to the big leagues. It's going to be no big deal. I mean, you think about it, years ago, they had to play at almost 5 levels before they got to the big leagues. Now they're different, and they don't get flustered at the big moment. I think when you watch Valdez and Rafaela play up there, they don't look like the moment's big to them at all. Same with Abreu. And that's what I really admire. The good ones have that in them. But I never, this never gets old though, watching this. It's fun to see things happening and seeing what's going to happen. Because if the Red Sox are able to have this next group come up, they're going to have a special team. And, the pitching, of course, that's always a thing. But position player wise, it's going to look pretty good.
Yeah, I know. I gotta, like I said, I got to try to go as many games as I can up at Hadlock, and I just sat there one night and going, usually there's one player, and you go, okay, I can see him in Fenway.
Yeah.
I went around the infield and go, yeah, you know what? Every one of these 4 guys in the infield can make it. And Rafaela was in center field; he's already in Boston. But you sit there and you go, all right, I can envision that. And that's from a fan's perspective, that is really something. So, yeah.
And I would say too, as a broadcaster, the most I would say the most beautiful thing to watch from my seat is a center fielder that's a high level, and watching Jackie in the minors, it was unbelievable. But last year when I saw Rafael, I'm like, wow, and this kid plays that position pretty damn close to Jackie. He was a no-brainer to me. I know his swing decisions and all that, but I had this old manager that said, they're allowed to get better. I mean, they're going to have a couple of warts before they get to the big leagues. And I didn't really think that was that bad. And, he'll learn. And they kept him back on purpose for that. And what I really liked what he did was he got mad that they left, held him in Double-A last year, but he tore it up. And then when he got to us, he dominated and got to the big leagues. But it's fun. It's fun to watch the guys before and just not here. I mean, I've seen players on other teams, and I was like, this guy. I remember seeing Noah Syndergaard at 19 and just being like, what in the world? This is not real. Same with Judge, seeing him in Trenton. So it's fun to me seeing them. The minor league game is great, and it's high level. I think baseball's minor leagues is great because the good players, LeBron James is not playing minor league basketball, but you can see a LeBron type in MLB play in the minors. So it's a treat for all those cities.
And as you said a little earlier, I mean, they've thinned it out a little bit in terms of taking some of the low A leagues out. So now you have a tougher pool of competition. So you really do get to see a lot better baseball.
Yeah. And, my one criticism, and I told some people this, Major League Baseball did not do a good job conveying that message, because that was not, people looked at it like, oh, they're just doing it to cut money. But no, the numbers, they had the numbers, the players that were making it from those short seasons, they were wasting a lot of money. And just because they make money, no business does things that don't make sense. And guys they're not staying at any level anymore. But in those cities that lost teams, they have a college league that's MLB affiliated. So some of those cities that lost teams, like Trenton, New Jersey, by the way, they're playing it's an MLB futures league, but they didn't convey that very well to people. And they took a beating for that, which they did, because it came across like it was just an accounting thing. But I could even see it getting smaller, to be honest. I don't know how much they need some of the low A levels anymore. These guys are better. I think it's a credit to baseball. They're playing more. They have travel leagues, and just from someone from day one to day, I'll be 28 years in this year. The players are better, younger. than they've ever been. And I think it's a better game, to be honest. And I think that's why you're seeing guys not signed at 30, because they're going to invest in their own. And that's going to be the future. You're going to give the Bobby Witt deal is going to be standard. That's what they're all going to do that coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I think my amateur opinion.
So I saw your MLB The Show guy. You big
Yeah.
Diamond Dynasty, or do you?
Oh, yeah,
do you like a
huge.
franchise?
No, Diamond
Yeah, I was
Dynasty.
watching
Yep.
some of your videos.
Yeah.
I'm trash.
I
Though.
mean-
I'm so bad.
I play a lot. You know, I call myself a reborn millennial. I video game. I'm on TikTok. I love all of that. So, yeah, no, that, you know, the MLB The Show video game really helps me get to know players. They have a lot of prospects and they have all the throwback guys, but yeah, it's fun. Every time I play someone online, it's like if they only knew what I did like for a living, they might be mad or yeah. So
That's an interesting
Like, who's
point.
it-
I never really thought about
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Ray, I think you're muted, buddy.
When you play MLB The Show, Mike, do you sit
Yeah.
there and catch yourself commentating?
No, not really. Or sometimes I just make comments like with what they say. You know, it's great. A colleague of mine, Ben Gelman, who was a minor league broadcaster, works for the game now, and he's in charge of like writing the scripts for the broadcasters. But his voice now is going to be in it. They have this mode called Road to the Show, where you create your own player and you play in the minors. He's going to be the voice of the minor leagues. So he was a minor league broadcaster, just grinding it out, and he saw this job opening, the video game San Diego Studios, I think it's called. He lives in San Diego and he works for a video game. Like, so that was my
Stuff's
point
dream.
before, you know, yeah, like keep your options open, you know. So a lot of people that get into what I get into, and I'm guilty of this, is being very tunnel focused on one thing, but and what you don't realize is how much working in minor league baseball has helped me in any other work, because it's such a grind. You know, the hours that we work, the things that we have to do, and it really, you transition really anything. So,
Mike, this will be my last question. Then we're going to wrap things up. I asked
Sure.
Tyler Murray the exact same question, so I'm kind of curious what you say. In a foot race, okay?
yeah,
Who will win between Ceddanne Rafaela, Jarren Duran, David Hamilton?
oh wow, I'm probably going to go with David Hamilton, because I think Duran is faster. It's like a car, you know what? I don't know the car analogy, like off the line, isn't it like off the line, or
Mhm.
Duran's
Yeah.
probably faster as he gets going, but Hamilton right away to me. So it's between him and Rafaela. I'm probably going to give it to Ceddanne because of his first step in the outfield, but I bet Tyler went Hamilton, right?
Yeah, he went Hamilton straight up.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'll text
because
him.
him and I had a small side bet of who was going to get a triple first last year at a game, Hamilton or Rafaela. I took Rafaela. He said no, Hamilton, hands down.
Yeah.
And of course, he was right. So
Yeah, no, it's close, because I watched. I mean, the new rules now are ridiculous. They're going to have to. I don't think they should. I think it should be 3 throws, because it became guys aren't even throwing at all now over to first base. But I'll tell you a quick story with Duran. I remember though, in Portland, that he was at first, a ground ball to first base. The first baseman threw it in the left center, and he scored. I've never seen anyone do that. He just kept running, and but once he gets going, you know, he's exciting, and he's an interesting X factor for that team this year. I think with him getting hurt last year, kind of out of sight, out of mind, but he was pretty productive before that. So
a lot of people I've seen, and I think George is the one that made mention of this on the preview show. If Duran would put a little more power and get into the 15 to 20 home run range, Do you see him in like Ellsbury having comparisons? And you've seen Ellsbury play down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not defensively. I mean, that's just he's not a center fielder.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the one thing they didn't like about him, he changed his hands because he was trying to hit home runs, and that I mean, I don't have confirmation, but he stopped doing it. So I'm assuming someone said, listen, we don't want you trying to hit 40 to 50 home runs because he can run. But I get it when you're a minor league player trying to get to the big leagues. But I think he's, if even 12 to 13, if he hits 285 to 290 with his speed, yeah, you'll take that.
Okay, Mike. Well, the floor is yours. Guys, I think I'm going to bring this back this year. I don't know, George, if you were on a lot of them, but hot tub time machine.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
We haven't sit there and done one of these in ages. So Mike, here we go. Hot tub time machine.
Oh, I like it.
You can go back in the time to any game in Major League history and commentate on. Okay, what game is it and why?
It's easy for me. It's the 75 World Series, Game 6. My grandfather was there.
Okay.
My dad has the ticket. But my grandfather pulled what's the Robin Williams character? He left early because my grandfather was a big beat the traffic guy.
Oh.
But I give him a lot of credit for admitting that. A lot of men would not admit that. But he did. But there's no doubt that would be. And I met Bernie Carbo, who hit the pinch hit 3-run home run before that. But that would be unbelievable to be there because it is probably, I hate to say this, the 86 Game 6 is probably, if you're a neutral fan, that's up there with one of the best World Series games, despite how Bill Buckner making an error, but it is what it is. It was an unbelievable historic game, but that 75 Game 6 to me is there. So yeah, that would be the one to be able to call the Carlton, especially on radio when you see him waving, to have kind of a creative call. I don't think I've ever heard the radio call of that. Dick Stockton did TV for he's on the. It's Ken Coleman. I think the Red Sox had the game on radio, but I've never heard the radio call. Or maybe I'm sure I can find it on YouTube. But
yeah, George probably remembers like it was yesterday.
True, but you're right. I've never heard the radio call either.
Yeah.
So and yeah,
how about Babe Ruth's first game as a Yankee? That'd be a good one too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in school that day. Sorry.
So,
yeah. I have. My dad gave me a box of Red Sox programs, and you should. Some of the stuff I have in there is incredible. My grandfather went to the '67 World Series. He went to the '61 World Series, Yankees Pirates.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely that. Yeah, the Carlton Fisk, that whole game was incredible.
So, well, Mike, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. The floor is yours. Tell everybody where they can hit you up at, and anything you want.
Yeah, at the Radio Mike's the best because I have a link tree that has all of my social stuff on there, and then just WooSox. I'm there all the time. We start on Tuesday, April 2nd, but you go to WooSox.com, you can find all the streaming and how to listen to us. But and if you come to a game, feel free to come up and say hi. People get timid to do that, but we love it. We love when people come up. We're in the club too, like at Polar Park. They put us in the club. It was all Dr. Charles's idea. So people can walk by and our booths are glass so they could see us and knock on the window. It's really cool. So, but thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Really do appreciate it.
This is great.
Thanks, Mike. So, guys, that's our episode. It's a wrap. Make sure you head on over to @BSEN617, our YouTube channel, to check them out. Also, Apple, Spotify, iTunes. This episode will drop tomorrow morning, so make sure you download it, check it out. So for DC, for the OG, for Mike and myself, thanks for stepping by the Pesky Podcast.